You ask what the problem with politics? I said, let's look at the word politics. Poly is many, ticks are blood-sucking insects. Today, politics has become a blood sport. It's more important that we keep the issues going rather than trying to solve the problems. Dr. Tom Coburn said something that sticks in my mind every day as I go to work. He said that we are at risk of being the first generation that leaves the next generation worse off than we found it. Every generation before us has sacrificed, and what we find now is that we become the stingiest generation. It should be more about the future of our kids and grandkids and not so much about our own future or the future of politicians. One of the problems we have right now in politics is that all of a sudden compromise has become an ugly word. But in business or in life, coming up with a solution that is something that's agreeable to both people is not a bad thing. Sitting idle, you're not accomplishing anything. We ought to be looking at how we can improve things and leave the world better off than we find it. If we managed our own personal budgets like we manage the government budget, we'd be bankrupt. We make decisions in government that make no sense. While, if we have less revenue or our paychecks are cut in our personal business, we find ways to cut. I'm sitting there looking now in state government. We find ways to cut revenues, but we don't have the solutions of how to cut expenses. If you understand accounting, you have to make both ends meet. If you're going to cut revenues, you have to cut expenses. There are tough decisions that need to be made in government, and it doesn't seem like we're willing to make those tough decisions. In my opinion, what we need to do is we need to come together. We need to look to see what common things that we have that we can accomplish and focus on accomplishing those common goals and those common interests instead of spending so much time focusing on what we disagree on. So many times in government, it's more about the political future of the individual than it is about the future of our kids and grandkids. There are plenty of things to argue about, there's plenty of things to disagree on, but unless we come together and find those common goals and find common solutions to those goals, we're not going to progress. What advice do you have for voters to consider when choosing a candidate? What have they done? What experiences do they bring to the table? What is their educational background? And I've always said if your biggest financial transaction in your life to this point has been your student loan, you probably shouldn't be making $24 billion decisions on behalf of the citizens. It's really important that you look to see why somebody's running. I say that people run for two reasons. They run because they want to be somebody, or they run because they want to accomplish something. They want to leave the institution better off than we found it. It's extremely important that you listen to what they have to say and really understand that to choose a candidate. What do you think the answer is? I think the answer is that we have to get people that truly have the best interest of our future and or the future of the next generations. People that can come together, that have skill sets and understand that we've got to find solutions to these problems. In life, you don't always get what you want. It's important that we move the ball down the field. It may have been Bud Wilkerson that used to say 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which means you actually are making progress. One thing we need to really focus on is that we have to have a vision. We have to have a goal. We have to know where we're going in order to get there. And I think so many times right now, we have no idea where we're going or how to get there. How do we course correct now? We bring together principled people that will sit down and truly come together to analyze the problem, to look at what the solution is, to have a long-term goal of how we get there, and then sit down and check your egos at the door and come up with solutions to those problems and do whatever it takes to fix it. We can't continue to kick the can down the road over and over again. The amount of deficits that we're incurring, the amount of debt that we have, it's unsustainable. We've got to make tough decisions. We've got to start making those tough decisions today. And even if it's not in the best interest of ourselves politically, we've got to do what's in the best interest of the future generations, because if not, the results of that are going to be something that's catastrophic and something we can't fix.